or people feel comfortable walking up to me and talking to me. And that, to me, those are little signs that people feel what I'm hoping, which is I'm a person. I live here. I'm invested in this community, and I care about the work I do, and I want to be accessible to the community, to the people I serve, to my neighbors. And so, when it comes down to it, that's really, to me, the most important aspect of a role like this is keeping in touch with that side, that human side of the work.
This episode is produced and distributed by Be Connected. We help senior marketing leaders and business decision makers transform their social media and content into strategic growth engines. Hey, I'm Brad Cebulski, founder of Be Connected. This is the Sponge Show, where I sit down with successful business leaders to absorb the wisdom, insights, and hard-earned lessons that have grown their organizations. Today, I'm joined by Jake Woodford, the mayor of the city of Appleton. He oversees the economic development and strategic direction of one of Wisconsin's most dynamic cities. Over the past several years, Jake has attracted new businesses, managed population growths and shifts, implemented the city's rebrand, oversaw the overhaul of the city's library, and built partnerships that have transformed Appleton's economic landscape. He has learned some powerful lessons about stakeholder management and sustainable growth that he'll be sharing with us today. Whether you are a seasoned business owner, emerging entrepreneur, or marketing leader trying to grow your organization, these conversations are designed to give you practical insights that connect directly to measurable growth. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to The Sponge Show. Thanks for joining me. I am Brad Cebulski, the president and owner of Be Connected, a social media management firm in Appleton, Wisconsin. What is The Sponge Show? The Sponge Show is an opportunity for us to take a minute and soak in the learnings and the experiences of others that are doing things in the community, that are building businesses, that are impacting others, so that we might be able to learn about ourselves and learn about the way that we want to move forward as individuals in our community. So today, actually, I'm going to pause and make sure that I invite you to, if you like the show.
I was going to say, if you like the show, smash that like button. Subscribe. Drop a comment below.
Yeah, if you, afterwards or during, if you feel like you have any kind of questions or comments or concerns, drop a comment, send us a message. Be happy to talk about it or get back to you, or even feature your stuff on the next show. But either way, we'd love to have you follow along. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, all the good things. I'm really pleased to have a special guest with me today who has a lot of insight on different experiences with both education background, but then also within the public sector and leadership in general. Today, I have Mayor Jake Woodford. Thanks for joining the show today, Jake.
Good to be with you, Brad.
And mayor of Appleton, by the way. We'll make sure that's like the mayor of Hortonia or something.
It's a lovely place.
It is. But thanks for joining the show today. And do you want to, for people who might not be as affiliated with the local politics scene, or even just who represents them in government, you want to introduce yourself and then how long you've been the mayor and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. So Jake Woodford, I grew up here in the city of Appleton and ran for mayor in 2020, really started in 2019, was elected in April of 2020. So an interesting time to start in the role. I served my first term, which ran from 2020 to 24. I was reelected in April of 24, and so I'm serving my second term, about 5 years into the role now.
Well, congrats for making it through a lot of different things, but then also getting into the second term, because I think that's a nod on doing a good job at what you're doing.
I hope so. Or people are so deeply apathetic that it was just like, all right, whatever.
We'll say a mixture of both.
No, I really appreciate the trust that the community has placed in me to do this work. When I first ran, I was a 29-year-old higher ed administrator and a community of 75,000 people, the sixth largest city in the state, took a chance and said, hey, we'll give you a shot. And I will forever be grateful for that. Despite all the challenges we've faced, it's been an incredible journey and really, really rich experience for me. So yeah, excited to be in the second term and already a year into that.
So compared to the outside looking in compared to the realities of day to day, what is the biggest thing that people don't realize is about the role? I mean, like from the outside looking in, people might see it as like, oh, you're a politician. That means you're just like a congressman or a senator or a governor or like, things like that. But in terms of being mayor of the city, what about that role is the biggest misconception or people like don't realize?
Yeah. So I've learned that there are lots of different perceptions and perspectives and projections even about what the mayor does and what the mayor role is about. But broadly speaking, in Appleton, the way our government is structured, the mayor is the chief elected official and also the chief executive officer of the city government. So in that responsibility, I manage a workforce of about 650 full-time employees. And so all of the city departments, the operational aspects, managing us through the budgeting process and providing day-to-day management for city operations. It's a $200 million a year enterprise. It's a significant operation. And so the administrative portfolio for the role is significant. And I would say the other thing that often gets lost when we think about elected officials or people in leadership roles, I'm a human being. And so I think about things, I have feelings, I make mistakes, I'm imperfect.
You're not a human being with feelings. You're a politician who's out for blood.
Right. Yeah, and this I think this gets lost and increasingly gets lost in certainly American politics. And the reality is that everybody who's serving in any role at any level of government fundamentally is a human being. Yeah. And so that side of the role is something that I try to bring to the work that I do and keep in touch with that humanity in the role. But that requires a level of vulnerability and being open. And I take it as a sign of success that the guys at the gym when they're drinking coffee after they work out, they give me grief when I come through. They joke with me, or people feel comfortable walking up to me and talking to me. And that, to me, those are little signs that people feel what I'm hoping, which is I'm a person. I live here. I'm invested in this community, and I care about the work I do. And I want to be accessible to the community, to the people I serve, to my neighbors. And so, what it comes down to, that's really, to me, the most important aspect of a role like this is keeping in touch with that side, that human side of the work.
And as you're running an organization that has 650 full-time employees, that human element is going to serve a lot of different people that you are managing and that you are leading, right? It's not just like a public figure who shows up for camera spots and to make appearances on shows like this, or
right.
Radio,
take credit for the great work that they do, or throw them under the bus when a mistake is made. The other thing about an organization of our size is there are many cultures within the organization, and some of this has to do with the different disciplines that are represented in a municipal workforce.
Go ahead.
So
just to clarify, so like what you're talking about is like there might be a culture within like the park and rec department, versus say, I don't know, garbage pickup.
Yeah, so
I'm sure garbage pickup,
public works, sanitation. There's cultures within departments, right? So When we really get down at the granular level of an organization like ours, you might have dozens and dozens of different workplace cultures within the organization, and part of my role is understanding that we have different cultures, honoring the fact that we have different cultures, not trying to flatten that culture, hammer it out into one sort of monolithic culture, but rather figuring out, okay, what are the common elements across these cultures, and how do those roll up into an organizational dynamic that really lends itself to the voice of the city of Appleton. What do people expect when they engage with the city of Appleton? What do they expect from the services that the city of Appleton's providing? How do we find that common thread and really bolster that, as opposed to, again, trying to hammer it out into some kind of flat thing, because it's just not. You have all these different cultures, and the cultures are factors in many cases of the nature of the work that departments do. So the culture of the public library team is grounded in the work that they do, and it supports the work that they do, makes them really good at what they do. But that same culture applied to the water utility wouldn't be as effective and productive, and it wouldn't feel as good to the people who are drawn to that kind of work, and vice versa. So I think that's a challenge of leadership in a complex organization, and again, especially one where there are so many disciplines that really run the gamut. I mean, we have paramilitary services with our public safety departments, and then we have scientific research, applied research going on in other departments like our utilities.
Very complex.
Everything in between.
Yeah.
So, and then we have operators. We have people who are skilled operators of machinery and equipment. We have general laborers. We have seasonal workers who join us. And actually, our workforce flexes up to over 1,000 when we're fully staffed with our seasonal staff. And so it's just a really wide range of backgrounds and perspectives in this workforce in the municipal government, and that is something that I really love about the work, because I'm interested in lots of different things.
I really appreciate that about you, in terms of like, you love the work itself, and you love being able to have the opportunity to lead the different groups. It's not just about like, I accomplished this election and got this title, and I get to be a visionary for these things. It's like, you appreciate the work with the people.
Yeah.
And I think that's something admirable.
It's huge. I mean, it's the politics are incidental. They're necessary. You want to be mayor of a city, you got to run for office. You have to do the political part. But for me, the politics of it are really not even about elections or holding office. It's about communicating with people. It's about describing the ways that you think about things, the ways that you approach issues. And when challenges emerge, or we're thinking about a change because we've been hearing from people that a change is needed, it's not a sales job. It's communicating. And I'm of the belief that if I'm effectively communicating and I'm giving access to the same information I'm using, the same inputs I'm using to arrive at a decision or an approach, that people, if it's a good idea and it's well reasoned, will understand. And they may not be all in on supporting it, but even in their reticence, they'll understand, okay, this is why we're going about it this way. And we've done some big things that way, that if we had taken a more traditional approach to politics of this is like a sales job and it's a blunt force instrument, we would be a lot less effective and a lot more divisive. But it doesn't have to be that way. It's just the way that politics seems to have evolved in this country.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't have to be that way.
No.
Oh, we were talking prior to recording the show about the things that you've learned as a leader. What are the biggest things that you've learned in terms of like how to get stuff done, and what you've learned about yourself or the act of leading a city and an organization and things like that?
So much. I'm still learning. I'm always learning. I'm always going to be learning. But what I've come to understand, I mean, I had a steep learning curve. I came from a role where I was assistant to the president and secretary to the board of trustees at Lawrence University. I was a one-man band, kind of a utility administrator. I just, whatever needed doing, I would get involved if I was asked. And so moving from a role like that into a role where I have an office staff of 3, and then I have, a dozen department heads, all of whom report to me. That itself is a big structural change to the role. But in terms of getting things done, I don't have the market cornered on rationality. And
what do you mean? Explain.
What I mean is, I think sometimes leaders come to believe that they own rationality, and that if they meet opposition or they're questioned or challenged, that those challenges and those questions are coming from an irrational place on the part of others. And so that they push against that irrationality as though it's an inhibitor, like it's going to hold them back from accomplishing what they want to do. Because again, I got the market cornered on rationality. I'm the most rational person, which itself is irrational. But you see that in leaders all the time. And so my perspective is I do not have the market cornered on rationality. What I do have is oftentimes a vantage point that not everybody has. And in order to get things done, to be an effective leader, I need to open up those perspectives to others and welcome them into that vantage point. Say, okay, here's how I'm seeing it. This, and this, all these factors. And when I take these factors and I run it through a filter, what I come out with is, this is what we need to do. Now, what do you think about that? Mm-hmm. That looks a whole lot different, and that process looks a whole lot different than starting off by saying, here's what we need to do.
Or if somebody else says, here's what we need to do, and you're like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
And we hit these impasses all the time. We hit them at home. We hit them in the workplace. We hit them in public life. And so often what it comes down to is that we are not taking that time to walk each other through what we're seeing and why it leads us to the decision. Mm-hmm. So I've really tried to hone that in the work that I do, because I've done some experiments over time with opening up those perspectives, and it's been really powerful. And now when I start working with new people, like if it's a new developer coming to Appleton, I say right up front that I'm a process-oriented person, and that process is going to take time. It's going to feel tedious. It's going to feel at times unnecessary or overly bureaucratic. But if you stick with me and we work on this together, I'll bet you we're going to have a net savings of time over the duration of our partnership. Because if we put that time in on the front end and along the way, making sure that we're building a common understanding, that we're working toward common objectives that we've defined together, then we're going to spend a lot less time in the later stages of this process fighting about how we got there and why. So we can get on with it. And we've done that now on a few projects, and it's been really powerful. It also has the added benefit of everybody feeling better about the work. whether it's the people in it doing the work or the community. I like smooth, and I want it to feel good. You know, the library project's an example where the city was arguing back and forth about this, the whole community, for 15 years. And my concern with like a physical project is that if you have an ugly process or there's a lot of fighting and nastiness in the process, some of that actually, kind of metaphorically, of course, it gets built into it's the mortar of the building, and it sits with the building forever.
Yeah.
And
you could see something like why did that building end up like that? And we're like, oh, well, if you knew the process behind the scenes, you would know why that ended up like that.
Yes.
Yeah, as opposed to like something that's really smooth and thought out and thoughtful. And
Or why does it, sometimes it's not even about the design. Sometimes it's just about the energy of a place.
Well, the culture of who runs the place.
Why does it feel that way?
Yeah.
Why does it feel that way?
That culture impacts everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it impacts the decisions that are made around like where you put signage and where you put like what it feels like walking through the front door. And and every little decision comes from that baseline culture that's within an organization. It's not just the design of the building, but the design of the building is also from the culture of what produced the project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you're building an inclusive process that really front loads the input and the engagement and the conversations, you know, rather than becoming obstacles that get in the way of getting something done, my perspective is they actually illuminate the way. So if we stick with the library project, it was all of the arguments against doing the library project that I employed to get it done.
Yeah.
Marcus Aurelius said something to the effect of the obstacle becomes the way. And I think that's so true because, you know, if we think back to, and you were here, you watched this for years too.
Yeah.
Well, why would we move the library? It works in that location. It's been there for a long time. Why would we replace a building that's still in decent shape and you know, physically sound? It's okay. What about parking? What are we going to do about parking if we move this thing? What's going to happen to the neighborhood? The neighborhood around the library needs help. It needs work. So, you know, why don't we get it out of there? Or if we keep it there, why would we make a big investment if the neighborhood around it really doesn't support it?
Right.
Those were the prevailing arguments against doing the library project when I was knocking on doors out in the community and listening to the input that people were giving. And instead of saying, these are forces that I need to push against, it was actually, no, these are valid and important points that are actually going to show us the way to getting to a supportable project. Mm-hmm. So we say, the library, we're going to keep it in the same spot. We're going to have an architect evaluate whether a renovation and expansion is viable. And if it is, then, and it makes sense, then we'll go down that path. We'll maintain the parking, and especially the accessible parking, so that people who really need parking right out in front can get it, because we have 1,200 parking spaces half a block away in the yellow ramp. Yeah, and right? Mm-hmm. So this is what I mean is if we gather that input and we draw out the questions and even the criticisms without fear, we can actually invite people into creating what the outcome will be. Mm-hmm. And that to me has been a really powerful learning over the course of my time in office. And it's just, I've now seen it work more times than not. Mm-hmm. And sometimes projects shouldn't happen. Sometimes the way that they're conceived does not fit with what the community needs or is looking for.
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
Yeah. So in terms of like, you know, sometimes we don't need that. It doesn't need it right now. You got to experience that firsthand because leading up to your first election, there was a lot of talk about I mean, you were coming off of the, exhibition center, talk about U.S. Venture, talk about the library. There's like all of this like seemingly momentum building projects that a lot of opinions were around what needs to be done. And then there was an international pandemic.
Yeah.
So you had to really assess like, what do we need right now?
Yeah.
Instead of just pushing forward with like all of these different things going on.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like, stepping into a new role amidst that environment?
As I was running, we got through the primary. So there was spring elections in Wisconsin occur for nonpartisan races. I use air quotes because there's an election on right now, and
there's always partisan.
Sure doesn't look nonpartisan. This is not. I hold a nonpartisan office. Mayor is a nonpartisan office. I've never been part of a political party. I'm still not a part of a political party deliberately, and so anyhow, those elections happen in the spring. So that's why this election timeline's a little different than what you might be thinking if you're thinking about November elections. So running for office, it's the winter. We start hearing in December there's some kind of virus going around internationally, and this could be a problem, but it's not a problem here right now, and so we're focused on knocking on doors and getting yard signs in. We turn the corner in the primary in February, get through the primary, and it seems like this virus is going to be a problem. And by the end of the campaign, really the last month and change of the campaign, we were on a purely virtual footing.
Yeah.
So it was all digital. And we weren't knocking doors. We weren't hanging door lit because this was in the early days of the pandemic when we didn't know how the virus even transmitted. So, people were washing their groceries, and it was like, do we need to sanitize the library books when they come in? Not understanding what we would later learn about how it moved through the air. But anyway, the city government, like every government and organization, really got onto an emergency footing around that time. So just before I was taking office, the city was sending people who could work from home to work, and changing their structure to an emergency setting where the council, like the committees of the council, weren't meeting. So it was all committee of the whole. The Common Council was holding meetings, but everything was kind of upended, including the election itself. So the election was held, but then there was a court ruling that ruled that there was going to be an extra week to count ballots. So instead of having a 2-week transition time after the election, I had a 1-week transition where the election results were finalized, and I knew I was going to be mayor. And I had a week to get ready before I took office. And when you take office, it is like, all right, here's the keys.
Yeah. There's no 6-week training period.
No, it's like, all right, well, you're it now.
Yeah.
And so, I took over an organization that was really all over the place, like everyone was.
Yeah.
And I would say, as a municipal government, Appleton was really well prepared for something like this. There'd been a lot of work done over many years to improve work from home capabilities and continuity of operations planning. So I was really pleased by that coming in. But still, how do you, as a new leader, establish your leadership in an organization at a time where you can't even get together with people in person?
build relationships with people. And you weren't alone. Everybody was in that boat of like, what is this life? Yeah, exactly. So, what I did was I thought a lot about what the fundamental aspects of leadership from my perspective are, and what kind of tone I wanted to set for the organization, understanding that those first impressions and those introductions were going to be foundational for all of the work that would come. And so I did a number of things, but I met with employees virtually.
So we used the tools that we had, and fortunately, we were coming off a campaign where we got good at doing virtual meetings and get-togethers and outreach, and so I employed those learnings in the initial days. But I did small groups. I attended police department briefings where they were doing their briefings in the squads. So officers were sitting in their squads for their briefings. So I joined the briefings, introduced myself, talked about my perspectives and what we were going to do about the situation that we were in, and then started chipping away at getting the city back into as normal operations as we could. Mm-hmm. And so restoring our services to the public and getting the council back into a regular meeting cadence and just those foundational things. And that I think served us really well, but it was super, super intense. And on top of that, we were dealing with the pandemic, but then George Floyd was murdered in May of that year, and so we ended up with sort of layers of crisis all at once, and it was a really complicated time. It was so intense.
Yeah, and that also included as people were going back to work and trying to get into that normalcy, you had testing stations being set up of drive-through stuff and coordinating all that sort of thing on public parking lots.
Yeah, we were standing up clinics. We were standing up these drive-throughs. We were figuring out PPE in the early days of the pandemic. We were going through contingency planning around mortuary services. You got to figure that out because you don't know the impact of the full extreme impact of it. No, some of the earliest meetings I had with our health officer and others was, what are we going to do about emergency mortuary services? Where if we have too many bodies that are overwhelming the existing systems that are in place, we got to have cold storage lined up. We have to have bags. Those were the kinds of things that I was talking about with my team
you said
in
intense.
The early days. Very intense.
Yeah, that's
very
crazy.
intense.
So, okay, if we get out of that, and we can all move past those couple years.
It was like a little flash and then it was done.
Yeah.
It was
a process.
It was a process. It was a grind. Yeah. But we started to get on the other side of it, and we certainly are from a physical perspective.
Yeah.
I would say we're on the other side of it.
I'd say emotionally we're all impacted.
Yeah.
So I think, I know you're a process guy, mm-hmm. and you're like, I want to be deliberate. I want to be analytical. I want to be process oriented about how we go about projects. So I'm going to ask you a question that you'll really like. Why are you asking me this? So you look at, you got the library project done.
Yeah.
Along with a lot of the community or the neighborhood right around it, right?
Yeah.
So there's an awesome development there with Fox Commons and development there.
Yeah.
And you got US Venture, buying the 222 building and
mm-hmm.
and renovating that, moving in there. And you've got probably a lot of other small things that you think of accomplish this, accomplish that, everything like that. What are you looking forward to next?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot. Where we are right now, we're in a strategic planning process as an organization, and I'm excited about that because I feel like the first few years in my role were really just about managing crisis and tying up loose ends.
First of all, can we just say that it's pretty rare that somebody would be in a leadership position and be like, I'm excited about strategic planning. Man, nothing gets me going like strategic planning.
Yeah, well, I'll explain why, because I've come to be excited about it because of where I think we are as an organization. So first few years are just managing crisis, getting through, and tying up loose ends, finishing out projects. And where we sit now, we're in this really interesting place where the culture of the organization has evolved. And I know this because people tell me this. I'm just in it, right? So does a fish know that it's in water? I don't know, because I lack the perspective of working in the city before. So I just don't have that perspective. But the culture has changed, and that's really cool. What's challenging about it is we're now in a place where, okay, we've tied up some loose ends, and we're on the other side of this set of generational crises, and we have the capacity from a leadership team perspective. So the people who run each department, that they make up the leadership team. We have a enormous capacity in this team now, and we're a tight team. We work really well together. We can reasonably predict how one another will react, or the questions that we'll ask each other when things come up. And so that culture is really strong, and it's helping us get a lot of work done. But to me, the value of a planning exercise, and strategic planning, there's lots of different flavors of this. I think most are useless, really, and most become a laundry list of tasks that people they confuse strategy with tactics, and so they create a list of things they want to do and call it a strategic plan. To my conception of strategic planning is really more about setting forth the values and principles and the way that we do things. How do we think about issues? How do we approach the work that we do? And articulating that in a document that is accessible, so that every person in our organization and our community can look at that and say, oh, okay, this is how. Because right now, what we're running on is a feeling. Mm-hmm. Oh, I feel like I know how Jake would look at that. I feel like I know how this city government would approach this issue. And that's great. But that only gets you so far, because there are assumptions that get made until we actually articulate it.
And what you're talking about is intentional culture.
Yes.
When you're talking about how you do it,
yeah,
and like how you go about working on this project or this department or whatever, how decisions are made,
yeah,
you're talking about intentional culture of the way you go about things, and it's just the way you do things because of values and priorities and processes and all of that kind of thing, and that defines the culture of the organization.
Yes.
It's not like, oh, we're going to do strategic planning around this tax bracket or this,
right,
this potential building over here, or
no.
You're talking about strategic planning around intentional culture.
Yes. Because the thing is that the building project will come, the road project will come, the crisis will come. And we do plan for those things, and we have lots of different planning products that we generate as a city government. But those things come, and if we haven't developed that strategy around the ways that we go about it, well, then it can feel like we're reinventing that every time we encounter something new, when the reality is that we're actually just drawing from our common values and the way we do the work organically. So to me, that's what the best strategic planning is really about, is saying, okay, how are we going to deal with it? So if we come into recession and building slows down, and we're not, our revenue does not increase enough to support continuing wage growth and also just buying the supplies and materials we need to run a city government, we could do a tactical plan, and we will if we need to. You can do a tactical plan around that. But if you haven't started out with what are the key elements of our success as an organization, and what are we going to fight to preserve, well, then you end up developing a tactical plan where everything, including your values and principles, are on the table.
And debated.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So everybody's got opinions about
Yeah.
what you should or shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And you're never right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, that's why I'm excited about this process, because we're finally getting to that. So we have a consultant we're working with, but what's interesting is that so much of the early work with our consultant has actually just been about cultivation. So our consultant's actually just going into the organization and cultivating, what's here? What do people think? How do people feel about the work? That will then help us articulate it. What is it about the Appleton municipal worker? Because we can describe that person, say they're passionate, they're hardworking, they're committed to their craft, they're hard charging. But until we hear it from them, why do you feel that way? Why do you show up for work the way you do? Why is it that the mayor feels like sometimes he is the one holding people back because there's so much energy and passion, which, by the way, I'm so grateful for and delighted to be in that position rather than having to cajole and push and come on, guys, let's get going.
Yeah.
It's actually the opposite in our organization. It's like, whoa, let's be deliberate. Let's take our time.
Yeah.
I know you want to work 70 hours a week, but we need to preserve you.
I actually think that a lot of people in the public would enjoy to know that the mayor is actually the stick in the mud and not the one that's like, we need to do all these things.
Yeah. No, it really comes from the team.
Yeah.
And the team is like, and it's not just the leadership. It's people. It's people throughout the organization who are constantly looking for opportunities to improve and innovate and create, and all aimed at being better at what they do and making the work more effective. And there's so much of that in the organization. So yeah, I mean, it's to me a dream position to be in as a leader, to have an organization where there is so much energy and passion. And, as a 34-year-old person in the role, second youngest person to hold this job, I feel like I got to work hard to keep up with this organization and the people who work in this place. And that is so invigorating.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Well, thank you for sharing everything today, Jake. And I think there's a lot of good things that people can take away in terms of like what it means to be a good leader and to run an organization, to look at things, I guess, rationally. Yeah. Even though you said you don't hold the monopoly on rational.
Right.
But the idea of that, like, you can look at things in terms of logic and what makes the most sense for this culture or this culture or this group and meet them where they're at. And I think that all is just a really good sense of a good leader for any organization. So
if you trust, I know you're trying to land the plane, but if you trust as a leader, you have to trust. You have to trust the people that you work with. So your team, your employees. You have to trust the constituencies that you serve. You have to trust your customers. You must. If you do not trust the people that you're working with or working for or selling to or serving, you cannot employ this approach, because I have to trust that the people in my organization can process complex ideas. I have to trust that the public can hold multiple truths at one time. I have to trust that if provided with the information and the process, they will arrive at similar conclusions, or they will help improve my conclusions. Then you can employ this model. You cannot do it without trust. You can't. And they have to trust you. Trust cannot be held. It's not one-party trust. Mm-hmm. Oh, you trust me, Brad. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I have to trust you. Trust, to me, can only be held in mutuality. So that to me that's a foundational piece if you're going to lead this way. But it is such a gratifying way to approach the work. It feels better for everybody concerned, and we get better results.
Yeah, I love that. Another good point that like a lot of people can take away, I think. So I think I really appreciate how you approach things. I really appreciate you being on the show today, and I appreciate you, listeners and viewers, for following along with the Sponge Show. Smash that subscribe button, like all the things.
Drop a comment below.
Send us a DM, and do all the things. But anyways, thank you so much for following along. Thanks, Jake, for being here.
Thank you.
And tune in next time. Jake, I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us today. That's exactly the kind of insight that helps leaders navigate their own challenges and to continue growing. For everyone listening, now go put that wisdom to work. If today's conversation sparks some ideas for your own business growth, visit BeConnectedLLC.com to subscribe to our newsletter for more strategic insights delivered straight to your inbox. And don't forget to subscribe to the show and share it with other business leaders who could benefit from these growth conversations. Until next time, keep learning and keep leading.